What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Studios. First off, thank you so much for checking out today's content. I'll make this extremely fast, but I need to plug our sponsors that make this show possible. Our first sponsor is PerfectStormNow.com, by far the most effective and affordable real estate agent website and database platform in the industry. It is the system I use to sell 50 plus homes every single month. Check it out at www.perfectstormnow.com. Our second sponsor is my personal 90-day mastery bootcamp, which is, again, my personal real estate agent mentorship program where we spend 90 days together, 12 live sessions. You get daily access to me inside the program. You guys, we go so extremely in-depth. There's nothing that's incomplete about this program. You're going to get all the tools that you need to go out there and crush it inside your real estate business. Make sure to go check us out, www.90daymastery.com. You can watch in-depth videos of exactly what's covered to see if the program is for you. See all the raving testimonials we have from all of the amazing agents and clients that went through the program. So make sure to check us out, www.90daymastery.com. All right, you guys, let's jump on into today's content. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD mode interview. Every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just those that are choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, their families, as well as have a big impact on others while they exist. So today, you guys, we got a really special guest on the show today. So our guest today is a motivational speaker, best-selling author of Daily Inspirations to Achieve Your Real Estate Investment Goals. I'm the founder and president of My Landlord Helper, and has conducted thousands of workshops helping entrepreneurs, helping real estate agents, helping investors, and more. So really stoked and honored to have Linda Liberatore on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you. Welcome. It's my pleasure to be here. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, you got a lot of amazing stuff that's going on that I think, kind of before we hit the record button started here, I was talking about a lot of our audience are in the real estate space, and you've got a lot of really cool software that I think can help them and their clients, which we'll of course get into later and what you're doing there. But I'm always intrigued with our guest journey that really led them to entrepreneurship in the first place. So if you were to rewind those clocks, for some of our guests, that looks like junior high, but if you were to rewind the clocks, like what led you into entrepreneurship in the first place?
Well, I guess in some ways I would say I ventured in it probably before I would have used that term. Just being, I'll call it a mom, right? I'm trying to find things that were family friendly. And I started getting involved with technology, and I did a bunch of technology training for like national companies. And we didn't work for the company, I worked for a series of different training companies. And so got into, like database report writing. We did a lot of like specific softwares for, major like international companies. So that was kind of cool. And I bring that up only because at that same time I was working with some real estate investors and helping them evaluate software. So this goes back some time. And then really the big jump became when I got involved with this startup company, and they ran out of New York City, and they were helping a really cool space. They were helping private schools collect tuition. And so that was like, I'll call it a space I didn't know of. And then what was really so cool about it is it was a web-based application. And back then it was just like, I'll say unheard of. So as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I need to work there. And that's how I ended up working there. And it was really cool. I worked with their training, and then I ended up working with their development team. So putting in lots of hours, I've probably always been a little bit more towards the workaholic side. And because of that, I decided, you know what, those real estate investors also have like that little space there. Those that are growing their own real estate portfolio need help with the collections and don't necessarily want to go into or drop off at a full property management. And therein started the seed.
Yeah. No, I love it. Now, did you always have an interest in computers and technology that kind of led you down to the training path, or did that kind of happen the training opportunity kind of happened, and then you had to kind of learn it and found out you had a passion there?
I'd say a little bit of both, I probably, at the very beginning, I would say that I started, kind of tinkering with doing personal stuff on it and setting up. I'm not like a gaming kind of, even graphics. I always say that's not my thing. When I used to have to do like a PowerPoint class, we used to laugh. I'd say, we're going to do this all in black and white. Is that okay? And, you'd have the really creative ones in the room throwing all this color in there. So that's not, I'm not good with the, like on the behind you, I pick the one on the left with the black and white. Yeah. So I would just say that I was always about the spreadsheets, the analytics, the productivity. That really intrigued me. And so those passions kind of took off together with the technology.
Yep, I love it. So then, okay, so you're in the tech space and multiple different experiences now between, like you said, collecting tuition to the real estate side of it. I mean, how does that lead to, I know it sounds like because you're giving so many training and workshops, I can see how that kind of led to a lot of the speaking that you do. But at what point did the speaking become the next level? Because I know you do a lot of speaking, and then two, how does that transition into the book?
Well, you know what? Just kind of one of those, I'll call it, this is probably will feed your entrepreneurial audience, is that was really something that I really enjoyed. So the training part of it, if you think about it, you're kind of up there teaching people how to use software. And I do bring a certain enthusiasm, I'll say, to that. And I do see the bright side of things. That was one of the reasons I probably just didn't like to be at a job 9 to 5 where everybody's complaining about why they're at that job. I've often said, I don't get that. I don't get why you stay, go out and find what you need to do, So I would say the training really, and the speaking, as you know, being in the real estate field, it's just something that with all these real estate investment groups, et cetera, I think we talked about before the show, that's really like one of the first entrepreneurs, right? Before that was such a popular word, all the guys out there and ladies that are out there investing in real estate, it's a scary world. I mean, that's not it's no different than starting a company is to buy a building, and it comes with all the same bookkeeping and marketing and all those same skill sets you need. So really, they're the first entrepreneurs, right? Starting and buying investment properties. And sometimes it's their own home, whatever, So I just saw that as a direct passion, a direct tie-in to what I do, to help keep people motivated, especially the daily inspirations. I'm big on, you have to do it every single day, and kind of, what's the guy with the morning routine? Hal Elrod. I don't know if you follow that one. Yep, I love that. And I definitely, and your Grant Cardone's, Joel Osteen, right? He's got a daily book. So it was really kind of modeled after that, like wake up, read something that's going to help me stay focused on my real estate. The second book, that one is more the details, I'll say, more the nitty gritty on what they can do to go out and find and plug in process to make their life a little bit easier, being in that smaller space. Like we said, the smaller investor. Hey, you said something about ones with 200 and 300. I would tell you, I have guys that seriously are still kind of not single-handedly, but still keeping their fingers on like 200 with 0 to part-time employees. So it's really incredible how many things people try to manage with that,
Yep. Love it. So, and I really want to go deep into that process, but before we do that, I'm curious so you're working for this tech company, you're doing a lot of training. At what point do you decide, hey, I've got this down. I found really my niche that I really love, that I believe in. At what point do you break off and go do your own thing and become your own tech company owner? And I mean, how did that transpire? At what point did that happen?
And really, honestly, I would tell you it was just based on, I have to do this, just that feeling like I've got to give it a go. It's been about 7 years now. I would say I was probably at the company about 5 years when I felt like I just needed to go do my own thing and get started. And it was scary. It was plain scary, and at the time, it was about, 2007, 8, when I first and I think I was like, while I said I was entrepreneurial, it wasn't really post-crash enough to realize really how bad, I'll say, we took it on the chin. And so in that, I guess I was lucky, because maybe had I waited another couple of years, I would have pulled back and been afraid to do it. And that, who knows? I guess that's all destiny. But I think I was too naive to realize that it was probably not a good time. But here's the good news about it. I really had to bootstrap the whole way. So I never was part of that, okay, get a bunch of investment money and get it going. So I think that's good. I think that's a better habit. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So yeah. And I think that those that aren't, don't have that, wired to be entrepreneurs, they may not understand, but it's like, as an entrepreneur, there's just something internal that if we're not creating our own thing, it's like we just have this internal war going on. It's like that saying out there that entrepreneurs work for themselves because they're unemployable, right? Because you get that internal battle always taking place. And
you say something that's really a good point. I remember that way early in my career is when I had worked like 15 years at a bank, and kind of right out of school. And that was kind of, I'll call it, the most corporate I was. And even in that environment, I just kept switching departments, because it was like, as soon as I learned that skill, I needed more. I couldn't just get along with that. We're going to come here, we're going to, we're going to put the mug down. It's going to be in this space every day. And, it's going to just happen this way. Like, I can't do that. And when we were talking about that during an interview with that small business, that was one of the things he said. He said, we really do worry about our screening process, because people that have a corporate job don't always make it for a small business. And I think that's a good fact. Like you said, it is an internal timer. It's something you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So then, you talked about with your other book, the one being the daily inspirations, which I love. It's like Zig Ziglar's famous quote, motivation doesn't last when there's bathing. That's why we need it daily.
Yeah.
So I agree, because, entrepreneurship, it's just these ups and downs. I have a mentor of mine that says it's like smiles and cries, right, on a daily basis. So, but then the second book, you talk a lot about processes, and, because you get, I think most people get the value in investing in real estate, right? And maybe it's not, hey, I want to go out there and acquire 100 or 200, but maybe, one thing that I always try to educate my clients on is, hey, let's not max out what your budget is and your means are. Let's buy a little bit below that, so that way the additional you can keep stocking with for the next down payment, and just never sell any real estate you ever acquire. And then at the end of this journey, you might have 6 homes that have tenants in there. Eventually they're free and clear, and can be huge for, that future retirement. But it seems like a lot of people get turned off by the actual management process. They get all these headaches, and and it just becomes too much of a headache if they don't have those down. So can you walk us through some of those processes that, those that are listening, or maybe it's a real estate agent that can kind of educate their clients on, to maybe minimize some of those headaches and some of those fears that so many people have with those?
Well, I'm going to say that I'm going to take that and combine it with I'll call it the motivation and the process. But we really are, I don't have to tell you, we really are at a time where there are so many tools available to people to streamline things that weren't there. 10 years ago, let's face it, or we're just barely coming out, we're too cost prohibitive. So now the smallest guy that you're talking about that's just getting started, and he's just going to buy 3 of them, he can set up process like right from the beginning at a low cost. It's not like everything's out of reach for them. So it's just a matter of the discipline to do it and seeing the value of doing it. So kind of, if you take it back to, let's say something simple like YouTube videos. Let's just take that for example. So I'm going to take my phone, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to go ahead and record the welcome video for a new tenant. So, well, why is that important? Oh, that seems silly, right? But, as you know, there's so many laws around, fair housing, stuff like that. So if you could record that And you could, whether even if you record one of them, right, then you can make sure that every new tenant you get when you onboard them is going to hear the exact same thing. They're going to hear the exact same rules. It's not like, oh, I'm going to tell you one set of rules. I'm going to tell you another set of rules. I'm just going to review it. Take some simple things like, I don't know, changing an air filter, something simple, streamline that process, record somebody doing it, create a YouTube channel for yourself, and you have all those up there. Create a YouTube channel of walkthroughs of your houses as you're rehabbing them. People love that, right? We know they love to watch those shows. You're making your own show. And I'm not trying to make it hard for you. I'm saying really streamline it. To give me a minute, raw video right off of your phone, and let's upload it to a YouTube channel. Let's make sure that people know you're out there. Use some Facebook, So that's, let's call it the marketing end. Now we get into, the management end. The same is true of, our big one is DocuSign. I don't know if you've been around long enough to see the conversion of the electronic signature, let's say. Before, when you want to renew a lease, it literally, it was like a 6-week process, right? Just getting it back and forth, like, oh, I'm going to mail this to you. You're going to sign it. And then you switch to email. Okay, I'm going to send you a PDF. Well, then you're going to get the call. I don't have a printer. My printer's down. I can't sign it. I want to sign it. In the meantime, you have a nervous landlord that wants to be locked in, right? The deal's not the deal until it's signed, right? So now we think he's going to renew, but we still don't have a signature. So now we send it in DocuSign. Boom, it's done. We'll get it back sometimes as quick as they've opened it, because it gives you all the messages. It's opened, it's viewed, boom, it's signed. And I always laugh because I think people now sign it without even reading it, where before, it was like, well, I read paragraph 22 and, I can't sign that, And now it's like, oh, everything's just signed. I think we're so used to like all those check marks and just signatures. So those are just like a few easy ones that don't take a lot, and then we get into what are some others, just with the process itself for recording issues. If they set up a Google Voice to start with, they get that on their phone, they get that via text, they can handle text, somebody else can handle it. You could forward it to 2-3 people. If you've got a maintenance guy or somebody else in your family that's helping you, I don't know all the different scenarios, but those are just some simple setting up a business, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. I got into really started my entrepreneurship career as a real estate agent and got into business in 2005. So 12 years ago. And yeah, the YouTube didn't exist. DocuSign didn't exist. We were really just kind of starting to use scanners at that point. It took our capacity was so much lower than what you can do today. And this stuff is so inexpensive, like Google Drive and,
Right.
Just so inexpensive to do. So what would you say, if you could boil it down to just like a few of the processes that maybe most landlords that try to take on the process by themselves, maybe the spread's too thin to be able to, pay a property management their 10% plus all their other
Right.
needy fees that are in there. What are some of the few things that just seem to get missed that seem to create most of the headaches and the problems? Could it be the screening process? Could it be managing expectations? Like, if you could boil it down to just a few things that they need to make sure they get right to have success with, like, what would you say those are?
And this one's so hard because part of it, I would definitely say the screening process. Absolutely. There's nothing that, our job in the role we fill is, I always say, we take care of people's screening problems, because they tend to come to us because now they're kind of have this needy person, and it's like, well, what about this? What about that? Like, well, I thought it was going to change, So if their gut instinct says no, make it a no, like absolutely the screening process is essential. And, there's, I'm sure you've talked about different class properties, which, is going to attract different demographics, different economics, socioeconomics. So they know that going in, but there are good people everywhere, and you just have to make sure you're looking. And I know I always say it's easier said than done to, it's always so nice to go, oh, sign this, and then you're done, and you just see it that way. But you're really not done if they're a headache, right? If you pick the headache and you just settled for the headache. And it's often like a college education, we say, because it's not until they've really dealt full circle with the whole headache that they've gone through an eviction and they've just spent at least a community college of thousands of dollars that it's just like, okay, I'll never do this again. So yeah, definitely the screening process. Now, and that's another one we could throw technology at, because that screening process now can be available. There's so many low cost, some of them free. I can't think of the name right now. I know is offering free tools for the screening and, for the online applications. That's a big, huge cutoff. If you think about it, if we go back to, like you said, 12 years ago, it came in, let's say, first of all, and I closed my eyes because I shudder, that it came in via fax, right? What a nightmare that was.
Yeah.
And then it comes in via PDF. It's still, okay, we've improved, but we still have to have somebody in your office retype everything that they just filled out, So now if you let them just do it online, even if you do something simple like a Google form, make them do it online. That way you could look at it. It appears for you in a spreadsheet style. You can evaluate your candidates. Smart Move, that's by like TransUnion. They put it out there where you just basically send the invite to the tenant themselves. They get their own screening done and the report comes to you. So they pay for it. It's their, I'm sorry, when I say screening, I meant to say like credit report.
Yeah.
So they get their own credit. So anyway, those are a couple things they can implement right off the bat. And then the next part is really honestly where we probably see it. We work nationwide. So we see lots of different, let's say, best practices and lots of different worst practices. So one of the things that we see is really it's the heart that gets in the way, because we're all good people. We really are. So we tend to want to help somebody. And you can't be in that game from a business perspective. The game you have to be is you've got a business, you need that, let's say $1,000 a month, whatever that rent is, and you have to make sure it's collected. And so we, like in our scenario, it's very easy for us. And it wasn't probably at the beginning either, but it's easy for me if I have your tenant sitting in front of me and he's called and he says, I can't afford to pay this month. I can easily just say, let's just go back to this lease. Let's discuss, what the agreement was. How about, have you called your friends? Have you called your family? How about this list of charitable organizations that are in your area? Because the charities will help for a one-time deal, and quite frankly, and that's when I get to deliver the good news. So that's why I'm going to give you a legal notice, because I know the charity wants that legal notice. And that way it's not such a, let's call it bummer or negative thing when you feel like, oh, I hate to give them a legal notice. No, you're really helping them, because a charitable organization isn't going to get ripped off. They have to see some kind of legal form that says this guy really needs the money this month. Either they were in an accident, whatever their story is, they have to take their story to that charitable organization, not the landlord, is what we say. He or she is not the savings and loan, right?
Yeah.
So, those processes are tough. Everybody wants to communicate via text. They got to get on that. That makes that professional. Same with maintenance, that's why we talked about those YouTube videos. That will help you a little bit when they're calling in about, get rid of your kitchen disposal. That's for sure, because nobody knows what to put in those.
Right.
What else? The renewal process, I'd say be timely. We see so many people, smaller landlords, that are way too lax about that. I would say that's important because different geographic areas, like we're just outside the Chicago area. So it's a very weather sensitive market for lease renewals. And because of that, and I'd say that's really true nationwide, though, even in the warmest of climates, but more so we feel it more in the colder climates where nobody really wants to move, during the winter months. So, but generally it seems to be that it's tied more into, let's call it the school season now. They like to be settled somewhere by August. They don't like to move mid-school year. So if smaller landlords let those leases seem to get away from them, they let them expire, and then by default, the individual counties, states usually have the rule that it goes month to month. But month to month in a cold environment leaves you really at a high risk if they decide to hand in their notice on November 1st. It's very possible then you could go vacant till March 1st. And that's a loss that a small landlord just cannot afford to take,
Yeah.
So we try to advise them to keep up with their leases, take advantage of those electronic tools, take advantage of the DocuSigns in the world to get all that filled in a lot quicker,
Yeah. Well, and the amazing thing about today is with all the technology that exists, and like you said, with videos, and you can eliminate the need for getting face to face. So then those emotions don't get wrapped up, because those emotions get wrapped up when you get face to face and you see them, you see their family, and you're like, oh, I believe in these people. I'll take a shot on them, and then boom, right? We're all creatures of habit. What they did in the past is probably going to be repeated, and so
absolutely.
And I know that you're really humble when it comes to this, and not wanting to necessarily go out there and heavily plug your software. I know that's not why you're here. It's to educate our listeners. But I do want to talk about your software, because I do think it's one of those things that can help so many of our listeners and our listeners' clients. And because it is like you offer that bridge, right? You offer that, hey, if I don't want to go and have to create all these processes on my own, but again, maybe I can't go out there and afford this property management company that's going to end up costing me on average $200 a month, because then now I'm at a negative loss or whatever it may be.
Right.
You're kind of that perfect bridge that helps manage the process, that provides all the systems and teaches the landlord how to, like, I can't even fathom, like you said, the client that's managing 200 properties really still by himself with your software. So kind of talk to us about your software and some of those differences and features of your software that can benefit those that are trying to avoid having to hire the high cost property management companies.
Yeah, we're probably somewhere in between. I'll describe it a little bit like this. So we have a software that's first off just going to keep you organized. In fact, I have to share with you, because this is just unbelievable to me. I just spoke to someone this week, 240. That's who I was referring to, doing it on his own in spreadsheets. That's incredible to me. That's absolutely incredible and he's doing it, and it's like, God bless you, because that, and I love spreadsheets, I really do, but that's really a task. So ours is just, it's an online application. For the landlord, it's totally a view only. They don't do anything. We do it for them, but it gives them the delinquency reports, cash reports, shows renewal reports. We do ACH payments, so we could take it right from the tenant's checking account. But we take a Chase Quick Pay, and then we'll take it up to the next level. Had that guy had 200 units, and he's already in, let's say, Buildium, Rent Manager, Appfolio. Those are all common web-based management softwares. If they're already large enough and they're in that software, but like somebody, unfortunately, right, when you're new, somebody sells you the solution, like, I'm going to sell you this software and then you're going to be fine. Well, that's not usually the case, because usually their problem is their time, not necessarily, it's obviously getting organized, but getting organized won't necessarily just give them back the time. So then they're still looking for somebody to help them. So we help them in all those capacities. Filling in leases. So the software helps to automate and keep them first organized so they're web-based. And I think that's important, really important in the property investment world, because you're usually on the phone and you're usually in the car. Think about it. They're going to auctions. They're looking up more deals. They're always, usually when they come to us, they're in a growth mode. They're trying to get more property, and they can't figure out how to stop getting sucked in by the existing tenants so that they can go out and find more property. It's like this circle. So yeah, our software is definitely very cool. We keep them organized. We're answering their phone calls for them, so that's a big one. And we do that 24/7, and we do it nationally. But what's really nice is we're referring to their team. So when you talked about the property managers, there's the 10%. But then I'll call it just as importantly, people that come to us are, like, I'll say, have control issues. How's that?
Yeah.
They have a team. They're generally out there buying more properties. They're rehabbing. They've got I'll call it their best carpenters, their best skilled handyman are their own team already. So they're not looking to give up that control. They feel like they can control their cost best by deciding the quality of the repair, So what we're doing is just interacting with their team. So when they come to us, they say, here's handyman A, plumber B, electrician A, electrician B. And the whole idea is when that event occurs, we're contacting them first to say, okay, so you wanted me to use plumber A today, and I use that example because let's just say plumber A is the least expensive of the two, but he's more than appropriate for a clogged toilet. But then plumber B is going to take the roots out of the sewer line that goes to the street, and you're not going to want to pay his rates to fix your toilet, right? So usually they have, like, I'll call it different levels of what they want to use where when they go with the management company, boom, that's all decided for them. And that's a big frustration because it can be a big loss of cash, And management companies are good. It's just that when people get into it, I don't know. Ours, I'll just say, is more of a relationship. We're answering to them. And I think they have to make sure they establish that kind of relationship if they do go with full management.
Yeah.
Where it's, they have some input.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, and then too, with property management companies, I mean, there's definitely great ones out there, but I've heard more horror stories than good stories as far as, for whatever reason, whatever, right. They did do their follow-up or whatever it may be. With that. So, do you guys, with your software, I mean, I know you said that you kind of help with the leases, the lease option, that portion of it. Do you guys provide the leases? Like, let's just say, somebody's listening to this and they're in Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm from, and they decide to move forward with your software. I mean, do you have leases in place that they can utilize, or would it be their responsibility to give you that lease and you just assist with the process?
Yeah, it would be their responsibility. By all means, we could share some items, but we always say, I don't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to play a lawyer, although I did maybe at one time, but, I've watched the show, right? But I don't like to get into that. Like, we'll say, give us your template. We'll fill it out for you. I mean, we do share. Like, I definitely over the years now have seen so many good little, what do you call it? Sections, addendums, rules, handbooks, and policies that are just, really helpful when something goes wrong. Just saw one the other day, just the simple sentence in one about the additional rent as opposed to a late fee. We all hear that. I've heard that for years, but it was the way it was worded in the lease. Like, you could almost not even see it was a late charge, just the way it was written up. And we hear that all the time when they go to court, because then they'll ask us, well, why can't I put, the balance is $1,200. Why do you only put $1,000 on my legal notice? Because the law says I can't include it in some states and counties. I can't include the late fees. So that way, if your late fee is listed as additional rent, now you could include it because your lease covered you. So you get into too many things like that I wouldn't know for sure what your lawyer would say in your part of the country, let's say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to answer that for you because I don't want it to, be a problem. I can refer you to, there's websites that have leases for every different state. I'm assuming you probably see Bigger Pockets. I know they've got links on there for every different state. I always get really tentative about recommending that because I'm not a lawyer in that state. And so I'll tell you, you could go there, you could look at it, but I'd still say, if you're going to buy 2-3 houses, spend $200 on your lawyer looking this over,
Right.
It's just not, it's not going to be money thrown out. That's for sure.
Now, with your software, is it more geared toward the actual owner of the properties, or if, like, let's just say, I'm in the real estate space and I have a lot of clients that are buying investment properties, and then I decide, hey, maybe I want to get into property management and help them manage their properties. And would your software be something that somebody that is in property management can use to manage their clients' properties, or is it more geared just to the property owner?
Well, we do both, but they don't use that software. So if you had a software that you wanted to use above and beyond, then I would suggest, in the scenario you just described, then I would suggest you look at the Buildiums, the Appfolio Rent Manager. We can give you some opinions on that. And it's only because our side isn't going to include any accounting for you on the payable side. So if you're looking, we have people that manage property and then use us as a service, like ours. So we're the foundation there, and then they're the managers. So they're out there charging the 10%. They're just using us on the back end for that piece of it, but they're paying bills and doing that. Now, some of them will do that in a QuickBooks. That's still really popular. Or some of them will take advantage of the other softwares. And that's, in that case, they just give us a login, and we're logging in the maintenance, the receivables, and then they're going in to log, to pay the bills for the owner of the property.
Yeah. Yeah. Love. No, it just sounds to me like, you guys just really do a great job at, if I were to boil it down, it's just like eliminating the main headaches.
Yeah.
That
sure.
Whether I'm the property manager or the owner of the property, managing my own, it's, again, because I think most people get into real estate investing because they don't want to necessarily take into a full-time job. They're like, hey, I want to use this as a vehicle so then I can go out there and have freedom of my schedule and have that financial freedom.
I agree. And you know what? And especially when they are working full-time, those are calls they can't even take. There's no timing the tenant call and when things are going to go wrong. We're here outside of Chicago. I don't know what you know about the news. I'm not even sure if it's on national news, but we just had really big flash floods. And nobody could have predicted yesterday morning at like 6 a.m., the phones were blowing up here because, just feet of water in basements and stuff like that. So it's like you have some guy that's working full time, he can't be taking those calls, you know what I'm saying? And he's got, let's say, a boss, somebody he's reporting to, or he may have his own small business. And most often to really grow that wealth, they're using, real estate investments as their vehicle. So they do want to stay in control. They do want to manage those money, but they just don't have the time for those calls. And then the awkwardness of collecting the rent. And when, it always is good when things are good, and it's always troublesome when all of a sudden it starts coming late,
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So then just for those that are watching and listening, we'll make sure to have all the links below in the show notes too. But what's the name of your software, and where's the best place if somebody's listening to this and they have some interest in it? Where's the best place to go learn more about it and get some information on it?
Well, I think our website is really good. It's mylandlordhelper.com. That kind of describes, I'll call it, our service, our testimonials. Our initial name was SecurePay1, so we still operate under that because that's where the software is, SecurePay1, and one is spelled out.com. And then, of course, we do daily, I don't even know if you realize, we do daily Facebook videos with tips for a landlord, just talking about, like we had recent one that was a big, I don't know, Joe Fairless. He does the multifamily space. And we just recently were talking about that fact that we always suggest to people they ask for a cleaning fee from their tenants. And, that got big likes. We got the like button on that one because people just don't even think. I said, everybody's schedule's busy. If I said to you, what do you want to give me $100 up front and we don't have to worry about the cleaning at the walkthrough, like they jump on that. Like, yeah, here, take my 100. Because as time gets closer to the moving, people are really trying to move out one day, get into their next apartment or, home, whatever it is. They're trying to manage the moving trucks. They're happy to pay something, for that. So we try to provide a daily tip, help the landlord get a little bit more income and a little more sleep at night.
Are you is your Facebook page where you have those tips? Is that is the page My Landlord Helper as well, or is it under a different name?
It's under both. It's facebook.com/SecurePay1, facebook.com/My Landlord Helper. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So then back to you is with your journey on building up this amazing business. What were some, I know you talked about getting in around 2007, which was kind of like the start of the crash, but what were some of the things? I hate the word failure because failures become our best learning experiences that really define us. So what were some of those hard learning moments that really helped you become the successful entrepreneur that you are today that maybe you didn't anticipate, but they were just some big obstacles that you had to overcome as you were building this?
Well, so could we start with yesterday with all those basements? That would be one of those tearful moments. So yeah, we still get them. We're not beyond those heart failures. Yeah, you just can't predict it. I could tell you a bunch of stuff surrounding that made it even more impossible, but we got through it, and I'm here today talking to you.
Yeah.
So, but I would say many of those along the way. Oh gosh, I guess what I said the biggest mistake was right off the bat. Like biggest mistake was right out of the gate. I thought I really did. I'm very analytical, so I thought I did a lot of analyzing, made a lot of pre-phone calls to find out if this is something that would work for you. Called, went to the library, got lots of lists, and started making calls. And then I worked with a software developer to get the software. But what I never really thought of, and I blame it on, it's more popular. You hear about it now, and there wasn't podcasts back then. But either way, I'm sure somebody maybe tried to warn me, and I didn't think it was that important. But I would say pre-selling. Like you hear that all the time on these entrepreneurial shows that if you think you have this great idea, pre-sell it. Like, why didn't I sign somebody up even for free just so I had that first customer? So that was really a bad move. So when I say really bad, I mean really painful, because for the longest time then, here I was like, okay, I got this great software, I can do this, I can do that, and I had no references, none, zero.
Yeah.
So now I'm saying, can I take care of your what? I mean, think about it. It could be anywhere between 1,000 and 10,000 a month if you had, a few houses, right? Or, a few apartments. And you don't know me from Adam. I have no references whatsoever. And I have this software. And especially back then, people from a software perspective were really leery, right? Like I said, nowadays, you'll just DocuSign. You're not even sure what you just signed. But back then, I'm saying, I'm going to do this great stuff with the software. Like it was such a crickets kind of moment, and it wasn't a moment. I wish I could tell you it was a moment. So I really had to overcome that. And I would say from an education standpoint, when I look back at it, it got me really brave. I made a lot of cold calls. I joined a lot of real estate investment groups, not quote unquote to sell, because at that point, I was kind of in an awkward spot. I was learning, but I was side by side with what was potentially be my client. So that's how I ended up getting my first clients, was in networking groups, and I volunteered and volunteer again. But I would say I just inverted that. I should have done it right away, gave it away for free. And to me, it's like silly because it's well known now. I don't know if I was blind or just, wasn't as well known then. I should have just given that away, and I would have been able to have my testimonials right out of the gate,
Yeah. Yeah, no, love it. Powerful advice. And too, I mean, so many people, we see so many entrepreneurs that have a brilliant product, but like you just talked about, I mean, they don't know how to network. They don't know how to market it. And I mean, it's not like you just created this amazing software and it started selling. You had to hustle like crazy,
right?
To go get those. And I'm sure you're still hustling like crazy on the marketing end.
And the other end of it, I have to tell you, if you think about everything I told you, like, again, now I can analyze this as the entrepreneur, but if you think about everything I told you, okay, I was the database guy, I was the spreadsheet guy, I like to analyze things. That's not the guy that's out there selling. So yeah, I did training, thank goodness for that. That was, let's say, a people skill, a communication skill, but I never had a background in sales and marketing. So never realized what a challenge that was going to be,
Yeah. Yeah. Now I know that you just mentioned the one about reversing, those things and giving it away for free. But if you could go back, whether it's when you started the software or maybe back when you first started your entrepreneur journey, if you could, knowing everything you know now today, if you could go back and give yourself like 2 pieces of advice that you feel would have really fast forwarded your success, what would those be?
I definitely would say I'm going to include sales training. I wish, because I'll say it, my natural enthusiasm, if I have to tell somebody about your podcast, I really naturally could probably get them to try it out, because I listen to it, I like it, I love it. So I have that, let's say, natural ability that if I do buy this phone and I think it's great, I'm going to tell people. but it's a much different skill to close the sale. It's all different. You know what I mean? So just getting your friend to listen to the same podcast as you doesn't mean, and then it was a very awkward thing to do it for yourself. Like that's in and of itself another skill, if you ask me, because I can tell you all about this phone and it's still different than closing something about yourself. There was that part of it. So I would say that's something I wish that I had, let's say professionally taken classes, done seminars, something early in life, that would be a regret. What's the second one? Let's see. Working too hard. I don't know. I think that's a good thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's times that's been challenging. I don't know. I'm trying to think what else would I say I could do differently. I guess just delegating and maybe not always working so hard. Being a little, here's what I'd say. I'm not probably enough of a risk taker. I should have been a little bit more of a risk taker earlier. Should have believed in myself earlier and taken bigger risks early on.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So when you talk about not working maybe as hard, but then you talk about being, such this, natural workhorse, if you will, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it's not like working hard isn't the problem. Yeah. It's taking time off that creates pain inside of our worlds. Have you found successful ways in your own life that where you can kind of shut it off and kind of relax when you're not working and kind of enjoy it? Or do you still find that that relaxation to be painful?
No, I definitely, I'm trying to find more. I mean, I would say here is another tip, I guess, going along with this, is within the last couple of years, I finally have what I'll call it, the right employee. Now, we're still not at a point probably where I'm going to take off 3 weeks. That's not going to happen. But I have made a lot of bad employee choices. I would say that I definitely, you're just trying to grow. And you're just trying to plug people in. In fact, I use that, I would say, as a sales tool now because I've been through that pain myself. So if you as a landlord said, why am I going to pay you? I can just hire someone in my office. I would say, my hat's off, you go do it. You tell me how that goes and get back to me. Because especially in the real estate investment world, it's really hard because it is a cycle business. And you do need, 10 hands on the first of the month and no hands on the 15th, so it's a very hard space to hire for, period, if you're a small landlord. And so that's why I'm like, when they say that to us, I'm like, that's really my biggest selling feature is call me after you do that and let me know how it goes,
Yeah.
But the reality is that was definitely a pain for me. So when you talk about enjoying time off, like I can't, when ultimately I'll call it my name's on everything, my reputation, the people I work with, and I'm sure you must know this through your show, the investors I work with, I have a man that went from 40 houses to 180. And I would tell you, he works as hard as I do. So that sets their expectations for me. So that vacation time doesn't really come because they're calling at all hours because they're working at all hours, So yeah, it is kind of hard to turn it off. But I think it's kind of the space I picked. So once we get into more speaking and less real estate, maybe that will work out better.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. So, those that are here that are watching, listening to this podcast, I mean, they're here because they want to go out there and create an amazing life for themselves and their families and create that success that they know they truly want and deserve. With that being said, do you have any last words of maybe advice or motivation that you'd like to leave them with so they can go out there and do exactly that?
I would definitely say I believe strongly in that kind of slight edge theory. And if you really apply that every single day, you give that commitment to whatever it is. And we have to, as you and I both know, take away that kind of just working hard. It's got to be making sure, like you said, how did you accomplish the book? Because I said every single day I took the number of pages divided by how long, what my target date was, and I have to make sure I get this done every day. So just like set a goal, work on accomplishing the goal, but don't give up a day. Like make sure if you don't want to take away from the family time, then get up a little earlier every day and make sure you're doing something towards that goal. It will definitely happen. There's too many people that don't want to do that.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Powerful words. And those that are watching and listening, I know I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation truly is just to start a delusion. Information is a power. It's taking action on the information that you learn that then ends up creating power in your world. Linda shared so many great, amazing pieces of advice with you today. Take something that you learn, take massive action on it starting now. Also, I don't care where you're at, whether you're iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the website, wherever you're watching this, below will be links to Linda's books and also Linda's software. So if you have some interest in that, check that out right away. Check out her books. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And Linda, I know how busy you are, especially with all those floods right now going on. So I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here. This has been a huge honor.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun. It was great. I hope I get to see you again soon.
Yep, 100%. All right. Thanks again. And we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.